Television Network. This is the noon news from Montana's news leader.
Good afternoon, and thanks so much for tuning in today. I'm Aja Goare. For the second time in as many days, Billings police are involved in another deadly shooting. This time, a 44-year-old man was killed by Sergeant Brett Becker sometime before 2 this morning. Officers were called to a home on the 1800 block of Yellowstone Avenue. A woman reported her ex-husband was threatening to rob a casino. Officers located the man outside Lucky Lil's Casino at the intersection of 15th Street West and Grand Avenue. The man waved what was later determined to be a pellet gun before going inside. Officers entered the casino and ordered the man to drop the weapon, but he refused.
Once inside, the officers saw the suspect waving the gun and threatening people. Patrons were yelling, screaming, ducking for cover, or looking to escape. Our officers, in this case the patrons of the bar, are victims of a violent crime. And our officer was put in a position where he had to react.
The man was shot twice, then transported to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. The Billings police chief says the man's ex-wife reported he was under the influence of opiate drugs, but that has not been confirmed. Meanwhile, Billings police also killed a man Monday morning after he reportedly charged at officers with a knife. That man, identified today as 29-year-old Zachary Hoven, died after he was shot 3 times in the upper torso. Officers responded to the Sandra Apartments on North 32nd Street for a report of a man screaming and swinging a knife around in his apartment. When police arrived, Hoven began throwing knives at the officers. Hoven reportedly ignored officers' orders to drop his weapon and charged at officers with a knife. Officer Brian Weaver shot Hoven when he did not respond to being tased. Hoven later died at the hospital. Another officer who tased Hoven was also placed on leave. Trial is underway in Helena for a man accused of attempted murder. Opening statements are underway in the case against Andrew Lake, who allegedly stabbed a man last year on 5th Avenue. Lake and the victim were arguing when Lake allegedly stabbed the victim in the neck, chest, and back. Lake admitted he possessed the weapon, but said he didn't know what happened to it. Trial is expected to last through Thursday. A Missoula woman who fled the scene of a fatal hit-and-run will spend 5 years with the Department of Corrections. Emily Levins was sentenced Monday for fleeing the scene after she hit and killed 32-year-old Benno Bigback Jr. in February of 2017. It happened at the intersection of Mount Avenue and Hollis Street. Levins told investigators she had drank alcohol at a casino before driving home and didn't see the victim until after she hit him. Prosecutors dropped a charge of vehicular homicide while under the influence. A Whitefish man is dead after he was trapped under a fifth-wheel RV in Evergreen. The Flathead County Sheriff's Office identified the victim as 57-year-old Rusty Atchison. He had been trying to jack up the RV Sunday when it fell on him. Atchison was transported to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg is testifying on Capitol Hill today about the mishandling of personal data of tens of millions of users. CBS's John Schumo reports.
Mark Zuckerberg is fighting to save Facebook's reputation and his own. Today, he faces a congressional hearing looking into the social media giant's mishandling of customer data. Zuckerberg arrived in Washington and met with lawmakers yesterday, apologizing before the hearings even began.
My biggest worry in all this is that Facebook doesn't have the answers.
Zuckerberg will be the sole witness during 2 days of testimony. Lawmakers want to know how outside companies managed to harvest data from 87 million unsuspecting Facebook users in 2015. Political consulting firm Cambridge Analytica is accused of using the information to try to influence the outcome of the presidential election. Zuckerberg is expected to defend against calls to regulate internet-based companies.
The business model of Facebook, which is to monetize and sell and share information without full knowledge and consent from users, has to be abandoned.
44 senators will each have 4 minutes to question the embattled face of Facebook. John Schumo, CBS News, New York.
A new CBS News YouGov poll finds 51% of Americans consider Facebook's response unacceptable. A state judge is blocking enforcement of a Montana law that bars certain nurses from performing abortions in the state. The ruling opens the door for expanded abortion services here in Montana. District Judge Mike Minahan of Helena says the law should not be enforced while he decides if the law should be struck down permanently. Last week's ruling comes in a case filed by an advanced practice nurse in Whitefish. Minahan said it could take months or years to decide the case and says there's no evidence that qualified nurses cannot safely provide abortions. He says enforcing Montana's ban on nurses performing abortions may violate the privacy rights of Montana women. Still ahead on the noon news, world leaders consider a response to a suspected gas attack in Syria. Details when we come back. But first, Ed has our weather forecast. Stay tuned.
You're watching MTN News with Aja Goare, Storm Tracker weather with Ed McIntosh, and farm and ranch news from the Northern Egg Network. This is the noon news on Q2, Montana's news leader.